This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benereofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening, who are the newsmakers, what's in store for the future. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains, Westchester, and the world. This is John Bailey, the Citizen Net Reporter, on the City News Roundup Show with Jim Benereofe, the Dean of the White Plains School of Journalism, and Peter Katz, the anchor for all seasons. And this is our 16th year of covering White Plains and the world and outer space, actually. Galaxies everywhere.
It seems like you're either in outer space or going through the looking glass these days.
Yes.
It's becoming bizarre.
Yes, it is. But you'll see just how bizarre it is when Jim Benereofe lays the headlines on us.
Here are the stories for the week of August 12th, 2016. The heat is on. The shock a day presidential campaign continues. Rye sues Westchester County for right of final say in the Playland deal. White Plains City Corporation Council says White Plains has filed an appeal of the Lefkowitz decision. David Tubiolo wins District 14 special election over Christine Peters. Public Service Commission sets records straight on real cost to you of upstate nuclear plants surcharge. It depends on your usage. Surcharge has no cap. White Plains school students lag behind New Rochelle schools in performance of Latinos and Black students on the new assessments. Governor Cuomo launches Sustainable Development Initiative. Macy's to close 100 stores. Where and when?
Yes, that is the question of the day on that one. And but right now, let's go to the Roll of Newsreel March of Time for August 16th. And the reason the heat is on is yesterday it was 90 degrees in the shade with 53% humidity. It was one of the most uncomfortable days I've ever experienced, and this morning was even worse. Despite the thunderstorms overnight, it was 77% humidity.
But it's August.
Yeah,
you expect that in August.
Dog days of August.
Of course.
Okay, so
maybe there should be cat days of August.
I should not be alarmist. Huh? This is not global warming in any way. This is just normal.
No, actually, what we're seeing probably is related to global warming, because global warming, among other things, pumps more energy into the atmosphere, which makes the atmosphere capable of doing what it's been doing.
Right.
You have more instability. You have storms of greater intensity. I mean, you know, when it rains, it really pours, to quote a salt shaker.
Okay, another.
So we're going to have some heat around for the next few days at least.
Yeah, you know what's really hot though is there's a great new TV show that's being planned.
What's that?
And it's called Trump Today. And here it is. And Peter, tell us about this new show this week. It debuted this week.
Yeah, actually, it's getting more and more frightening, John, in the presidential campaign. Donald Trump has insisted that President Obama founded ISIS, the terrorist group, and he insisted that Hillary Clinton was the co-founder of ISIS. Unbelievable. He spent all yesterday phoning various media organizations,
Thursday of this week,
sitting still for interviews, repeating
then they
his
take
allegation.
His calls. They take his calls. That's interesting.
This morning, just before we started recording our program, Trump tweeted, "I was just being sarcastic."
Yes, explains a lot.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, the Obama-founded ISIS business followed something that he said, which really is frightening, no matter how you look at it. During a speech, he warned his crowd that if Hillary Clinton is elected president, she will be appointing Supreme Court judges. And there's nothing you can do about it, he said. And then he stopped and he said, maybe you Second Amendment people can do something. And then he paused and he said, that would be a tragic day. Clearly.
I didn't hear that part of it.
Well, you didn't, because that was not carried on most of the sound bites that were run on various news programs.
That is even worse than the rest of the context.
Clearly, the meaning of that was the Second Amendment people, who are the gun rights people, might consider assassinating Hillary Clinton. That is a despicable thing for any candidate or for anyone else to say.
I would say that we go to great lengths on this show not to read
inflammatory stuff.
Or say things like that,
but
which could...
Look.
And he does that? It's hard to believe. But
some of the commentaries said, and I agree, if anyone else had said that, someone in the crowd, for example, had said something like that, which was overheard, that person would have been arrested instantly and be under questioning by the Secret Service.
There should be a lot more questioning of Trump, period.
The Secret Service itself was prompted to send out a tweet saying, we are aware of Trump's remarks. It was reported widely that the Secret Service questioned the Trump campaign about those remarks. The Trump campaign denied that the Secret Service did such questioning. I myself would tend to believe that they did, because the Secret Service is obligated to investigate any threat or possible threat or what is interpreted to be a threat against a president of the United States. In this case, it would be against a candidate who might be elected a president of the United States.
It still has a threat.
Nonetheless, a despicable thing for anyone to say or even hint at.
Yes, he's making...
Now, we add to that Katie Tur, who is NBC's correspondent assigned to cover the Trump campaign. She's been covering it since virtually the beginning, who now has gone public and revealed an incident which happened, something that happened to her. At one of the campaign events, Trump pointed at her and said something nasty about her and the media in general. As you may know, he's been lashing out at the media from time to time. And she says that the crowd turned and looked at her, and it was an angry crowd, and she felt scared. And she reveals that the Secret Service came over to protect her, and the Secret Service saw fit to escort her from the event to her car to get her safely out of there. She says that she consistently sees angry crowds. She sees hostility. She sees in this Trump campaign the reflection of a person who has no business running for president. Those last few words were mine, not hers. She didn't go quite that far. What I see increasingly in the Trump campaign is that he has adopted things which appear to be quite similar to what Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf. Hitler wrote about challenging existing institutions, creating unrest, creating disbelief in the institutions, about challenging the press. And Hitler and his propagandist Goebbels are most famous for saying, if you tell the lie loud enough and long enough, people will believe it.
Right.
And if you look at the pattern that we just saw this week, where Trump has said outrageous things,
and then he sort of backs off like this morning.
and after he says them long and loud, backs off.
Yes. The damage, though, has been done.
Are you seeing a parallel to what Hitler wrote?
Well, make up your minds. You know, that's
On the Trump also issued his economic plan this week.
Yes,
and Hillary Clinton issued her economic plan this week. Hillary's plan contains some things pushed by Bernie Sanders, most notably the idea of free college tuition for the middle class. However, one thing that critics have lashed onto here is that she apparently defines the middle class as below $125,000 a year in income, in that range. Now, $125,000 a year in income in Westchester or Fairfield County, Connecticut is almost poverty level.
Doesn't go far enough.
And we must say that she was talking, I presume, about family income?
Yes.
Well, that is
somebody's single,
too
and
low.
they have an $125,000 income, they're in pretty good shape. However, somebody who is married and has, let's say, 2 children,
one in college age,
has a tough time.
Yes, that's a tough time. Really out of touch.
You know,
out of touch.
And anyway, the details of both Trump's economic plan and Hillary's economic plan, I believe, got lost in the controversy over his Obama ISIS remark and
a cover on Time magazine.
The Second Amendment people might be able to do something about Hillary Clinton remark.
Time published this cover this week,
showing Donald Trump.
Or something that
the
possibly
idea is
might be
that
construed.
the Trump campaign is melting.
Yeah.
If you look at the nationwide polls, in some cases Hillary Clinton is leading by 10 points, even greater than that in some of the so-called swing states. And amazingly, in Georgia, according to a poll, Clinton is leading by 4 points, and the Republicans consistently have carried Georgia in the past, decades long.
Can you ever imagine Georgia
elections
going to the Democrat?
Yeah.
Amazing. Now, one last slide on this, and that's the Hillary and Friends that surfaced this week. A lot of Republicans are saying they're not going to support Trump for president.
Well, not only that, yes, this week approximately 50 former national security people, Republicans under Republican presidents, Bush notably, signed on to a letter saying they cannot support Trump for president.
Right. Now, for something completely different, the shocker of the week was best surfaced in the last day, and that was that the city of Rye is, dramatic slide here, is suing Westchester County to stop the Standard Amusements Westchester County deal on Playland.
Now,
if they don't get a say
here you
in what's
see
done.
four different views on the screen of Playland highlights. One is the boardwalk. Then you have some of the very old and treasured buildings, and you have, of course, the carousel, and then the controversial pool, which Westchester County did open the pool to remain as a pool for now. Yeah. But I have the impression that Standard Amusements would like to turn it into something else, maybe a restaurant.
Yes, they really do want to do that. That was part of their plan, and Playland doesn't want. I mean, Rye does not seem to want that. And they said they were promised a seat at the table when this is all going to be discussed, but that wasn't good enough. They want the right of the director's cut, the final decision, and that is going to be an interesting case, Jim. Do you feel cities should have that right of refusal for something that is county-owned?
Well, in their backyard.
Yeah.
You know,
what do you think?
I think I certainly sympathize with Rye. I think that they are definitely affected by traffic there, and I don't see why they can't have a say. What I understood they were saying was that they couldn't get any information that was being kept from them on these final says or whatever.
Well, it hasn't been, the pool hasn't been decided yet. Yeah. But be that as it may, it remains to be seen how Standards of Amusement is going to react to this. Will they walk?
I personally think the pool is a major feature, or it should be made a more major feature.
Yeah, I mean, the county itself staged a race over there with a lot of kids
If I was running
just a week ago.
And I was the county, I would set up a pool or an aquatics program that would have a goal of getting every kid in the county of Westchester to learn how to swim.
Very important. Very important. Now,
well, that's not the only lawsuit thing in the news this past week, is it?
Yes. John Callahan, the White Plains City Corporation Council, told me yesterday that the city has indeed appealed Judge John Lefkowitz's French-American School of New York decision to call for an immediate vote by the council, and he said they filed the appeal within the last month. We haven't gotten a copy of it yet. We, of course, have requested it from the Cooperative White Plains Legal Department, who was always so accommodating to
so this has the effect, really, of kicking the can down the road a little bit time-wise. We don't know just how long it might take for the appeal filing to work its way through the court system, but certainly what Judge Lefkowitz wanted was for the Common Council to take a yes or no vote on the site plan, on the project itself, and then we could
going to happen for a while.
We could deal with it depending upon how that vote came out.
And
it's interesting that the French American school people started this off with what's called an Article 78 proceeding against the city, and it's the city of Rye has taken an Article 78 procedure against Westchester County.
I mean, that's why Standard Amusements may say, hold on a minute, we can't wait forever, we're walking. And so that would really hurt the future of the park.
Yeah.
I mean, because no one has been able to figure out what to do with that. They have. And,
well, the people down in Yonkers figured out what to do with Bernice Spreckman's seat on the county legislature this week.
District 14 was decided in a special election Tuesday, which wasn't too well publicized.
Spreckman decided to retire after 20 years.
After getting reelected just last November, which I felt was disingenuous on her part.
Yeah, or there may be a reason that we don't know about. So
she's an older person.
So don't run. So don't run. Okay?
Something could have come up between the time she ran. When you're in her age group, things can change overnight.
True, but you have to
be humane about this.
6 months, really?
Yes.
I'm a journalist. How can I be humane? Come on.
You do publicity for the Trump campaign, don't you?
Well, as I say, the journalists have to fight back. They have to ask some hard questions on that campaign.
Hey,
God, what if they were really putting them through the coals?
The amazing thing is that Trump manages to dominate the headlines, even when he's not in town. All right, Trump was out of New York this week, so what happens? Some guy climbs up the facade of Trump Tower in Manhattan, using suction cups going up the glass.
You can't you can't hear a news story without hearing the T name.
So the police rescued this guy, pulled him inside the building, and sent him to Bellevue, and he said that he did it because he just wanted to meet Trump.
All right. Now let's look at those I'm sorry, sir, but I can't pronounce your name. But anyway, David Tubiolo. Thank you. Your Italian heritage is coming through there. Thank you. Now, he defeated Christine Peters with 62% of the vote. And you will see those figures on the Board of Elections, but no journalism venue
Well,
published them.
look, you have to keep in mind that as far as the turnout goes, this election was in August, okay?
Yeah.
Special election in August.
Right.
People are away. People are not interested.
Right.
You know, most people didn't even know there was a special election, for crying out loud.
That's true. However, the point would be Mr. Tubiolo was the worked for Ms. Spreckman and also ran her campaign, and then he immediately gets offered to run her seat.
Well, that's fine.
Run for her
Why not?
seat, and so therefore he slips on in with another special election, and Ms. Peters did much better against Ms. Spreckman when she ran last November, but the magic was not there this time. Now, moving along to something we did find out this week in investigating more about the surcharge that's going to be applied next April, I'm told, to our bills.
Now, I think we first need to set the stage here.
Right.
Last week on this program, I talked about the surcharge to fund nuclear power plants in upstate New York. Right. Forbes magazine had written a story about it. Mm-hmm. The Journal News has written a story about it, okay? Right. So now let's hear from John.
So what happened was the subsidy increase, now we have learned from the Public Service Commission External Media Relations Department, is based on your usage, which will, of course, fluctuate.
I think the story that had been published previously said it's only going to cost you $2 a month for this.
Yes.
Well, it turns out it could end up costing you a lot more than $2 a month. Now, this is a surcharge. Governor Cuomo lumps nuclear power as being green power, and there are 3 nuclear plants in upstate New York, which the operators say are in jeopardy because they don't have enough money to keep them running properly, to maintain them properly,
expenses.
to keep people employed. So they're looking for a subsidy to help them out.
Which
and
they're
indeed,
getting.
That has been arranged for them to receive about $2 billion over the next couple of years in subsidies, and about $1 billion of that is going to come from us, the ratepayers, all over New York State.
So if we can have a quick look at this formula. And this is the formula that's given to me by the Office of External Communications yesterday. And when you wade through those enormous figures, statewide 147,858,000 kilowatts, that's how you can't wrap around. Now, it comes down, according to this formula, if you use 600 kilowatts, you will be charged an extra $196
a month
per kilowatt.
However, in looking at my electric bill for the past month, it's not 600 kilowatts. It's about 1,600 kilowatt hours used.
Can we take
Why?
up a collection?
Because it's hot. You're using some air conditioning.
Really?
So in comparing this with other people, theirs was about 1,500 kilowatt hours. So we're really looking at about $6 a month.
Yes.
Do that over 12 months. If you average out to 1,500 kilowatts a month, say, then you're looking at $72 a year.
Yeah, here's what it's going to cost WPCNR. If we can have a picture of me, there we are. We use 1,717 kilowatt hours, and if you multiply that by 0.00326, it's $565.61 more a month, and about $60 a year.
And if you happen to have something like electric heat, let's say, where you're in January or February burning something like 6,000 kilowatt hours a month, your surcharge just from this goes up. And your electric bill over the course of the year may be $200 or $300 higher as a result of this little surcharge, which has been innocently passed on to us.
That's right, sort of. But this is what happens when you want to go green and want to improve things, you, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer, usually end up paying.
And I mean, there is a school of thought which says that nuclear power really is not green power because you end up with a whole bunch of radioactive waste that you have trouble getting rid of. And
very disturbing that that's being given a pass there.
Anyway, as long as we're on numbers, you did some school numbers comparing White Plains to New Rochelle. Yes, I was curious
to see how White Plains compared to New Rochelle's performance on the assessment test. Now, if you remember, 62% of the whites took the 8th grade ELA, and 179 Latinos took it, 26% passed, and 50 blacks took it, 20% passed. In grade math, even worse results. Now, let's take a look at what New Rochelle did. Oh, these are white. There, New Rochelle, 114 of 322 kids passed in the 8th grade ELA, 35%. 45 of 73 whites passed, 62%. But the Latinos did a little bit better than White Plains. 26% passed, and the blacks, a little better.
I mean, we're running out of time, but the bottom line is that New Rochelle did a little bit better than White Plains.
Particularly with the Latino
I, for one, you know, I was surprised when John came up with those figures because my perception was that the White Plains schools were a little better than New Rochelle's, but that's just my perception.
That was my perception too.
One thing that has me a little concerned is this story about Macy's.
Yes.
Which they say that they're closing stores, and we have one right here in the Galleria.
Well, we don't know if they're closing this store, and we don't know if they do when it will happen. But we've also heard that Sears may close.
Yeah, if Sears and if Macy's here in White Plains are closed, then what happens to the future of the Galleria? Does that set the Galleria up for a major redevelopment? Tom Roach, the mayor of White Plains, offhandedly remarked some months ago that it was his understanding there were 2 possible deals for the Galleria to change hands. We've heard nothing further about that, but we see the White Plains Mall now has a real proposal to put in a 28-story building. Could the Galleria be far behind if Macy's closes and if Sears closes? And again, and we don't know that's actually going to happen.
It would be a disaster.
But nationally, we do know that both of those chain operations are closing some facilities.
Right. Right now, it's time to close up here on White Plains Week. John Bailey for Jim Benereofe and Peter Katz. Good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week, news and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.